Welcome back, fellow readers. This is Suave, and today we're going to be taking a deep dive into a light novel known as The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten, Volume 1. First, let's take a quick look at our book. Okay, so here we have our front cover. We have our angel Mahiru. She's holding her green umbrella, and it looks like she's standing in the apartment complex balcony. Over here we have the spine of the book, so we can see what it looks like when it's on your bookshelf. We have the title, the volume number, and the picture from the front cover also being on the spine there. And then on the back we have our synopsis. A heavenly encounter. Mahiru is a beautiful girl whose classmates all call her an angel. Not only is she a star athlete with perfect grades, she's also drop-dead gorgeous. Amane, an average guy and self-admitted slob, has never thought much of the divine beauty, despite attending the same school. Everything changes, however, when he happens to see Mahiru sitting alone in a park during a rainstorm. Thus begins the strange relationship between this incredibly unlikely pair. And here you can see the two little chibi drawings we have of our two main characters, Amane and Mahiru. Okay, let's take a quick peek inside. I know some of you don't like to be spoiled on those insert images, so we're just going to jump straight to the table of contents. We have a little over 14 chapters here in our book, just a little over 200 pages, and we have chibi little profiles of our two main characters, Amane and Mahiru. Next is the credits page, so we can see the story is written by Saekisan, translated by Nicole Wilder, and cover art by Hanekoto. Alright, let's move on to the review. So the first question that comes to mind is, what exactly is The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten? In a nutshell, it is a heartwarming romance comedy light novel series. This is not the type of series where the characters are accidentally trying to fall in love, or they might bump into each other without realizing it. This is the type of series where you have two characters who interact with each other, and this is kind of a slow build-up. This is a long relationship that we're seeing build up over time. So where does our story begin? Well, first we have two main characters. First we have Mahiru. Mahiru is our sweet little angel. She has the best grades in the whole school. She has perfect long hair. She has a beautiful face, a smile that'll make all the guys go crazy, perfect skin complexion. The list just goes on and on. And then we have Amane. Amane's not a bad person. I mean, he still gets good grades. He's a very kind person. But other than that, it kind of goes downhill. I mean, the guy's a total slob. He doesn't know how to clean up after himself. He lives alone, and he doesn't know how to cook, so his diet's not really that great. And since his diet's not that great, he doesn't really look like a very healthy person to begin with. So as you've probably guessed from the title, these two characters live next to each other. In fact, we're told in the very beginning of the story that these two have been living next to each other in the same apartment complex for a while now. They actually do know each other, or at least I should say they know of each other. That's because these characters really had no reason to be talking to each other until now. More likely they just acknowledged each other. Because you have Amane. So Amane, he's kind of a self-conscious guy. He acknowledges that Mahiru is a very beautiful girl, like any other guy does. But what he sees her as is that she is more like this unobtainable beauty that you can only admire from afar. And then you have Mahiru. Mahiru is a very kind person. She'll talk to people and she'll make friends with people. She has a lot of friends. But she doesn't really have a reason to talk to people that she doesn't really know. And her and Amane, while they might be in the same year in high school, they are in different classes, so they don't really see each other at all. So she has really no reason to talk to him. So how do these two characters, who never talk to each other at all, come to finally meet each other? Well, the story begins with Amane going home from school. You see, it's a very cold, rainy day. He has his umbrella, he's just trying to get home. He doesn't even go to the convenience store. And on his way home, there's a little park. And in that park, he sees a beautiful girl in a swing. She's kind of minding her own business, but at the same time, it's raining and it's cold, and he doesn't understand why she's there. So he kind of walks up to her to figure out what's going on. And when he reaches her, he realizes that it's his neighbor Mahiru. And Mahiru is kind of just sitting there on the swing set with a cold look on her face. He doesn't really understand what's going on. So he walks up to Mahiru because, he's concerned. So he walks up to her. He says, "Hey, what's going on? Are you okay?" And at first she doesn't really say anything. She kind of just looks blankly at the floor, swinging on the swing back and forth a little bit. Then she kind of, gets her gears back, and then she looks up at him and says, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine." And at this point, Amane is like, "Okay, there's obviously something wrong with her, but she doesn't want to say anything. But it's also kind of none of my business, so I'm not really gonna push her. And he kind of just makes a gesture and gives her his umbrella. And she kind of just doesn't really understand why he's doing this, but out of the goodness of his heart, he does it. And without really having the courage to say anything else, he kind of just runs away back to his apartment. And she's there sitting there in the swing set with his umbrella. Fast forward to the next day, we have Mane going to school, and lo and behold, he's sick. He got a cold because he didn't have his umbrella to protect him from the cold rain, and he thought he could just dry off in the apartment with no problem. He didn't even bother taking a warm shower that night, I don't think. So what happens is, he's sick, he's with his friend, and his friend even tells him, hey, why are you at school? You look really sick, you look really bad, way worse than usual. And Amane, he doesn't really care what his friend is thinking right now, because as he's walking, he sees through one of the classroom doors, he sees Mahiru, and Mahiru is perfectly fine, she's not sick, and he's like, okay, as long as she's fine, everything's all good in the world. And then, after school, he goes back home. He's actually struggling to get home because he's sick. So as he's trying to get into his apartment room, he's trying to open the door. He's struggling because he's sick. And he sees his neighbor Mahiru. She's standing there. She's actually been waiting for him to come home because she's been wanting to bring him back his umbrella. The problem is Mahiru kind of sees that he doesn't look so good. And as he opens his door, he's about to collapse because he realizes, oh, he's finally safe. He made it home. Let me just collapse here on the floor. Maybe she'll go away. And as he's collapsing, she actually runs up to him and catches him. Fast forward a little bit later, he wakes up and he's on his bed. And there's covers over him. There's a wet towel on his forehead. He doesn't really understand what's going on. He's looking around, and then he sees Mahiru. And this whole time, Mahiru was actually nursing him back to health. Now, while Mahiru is here, she's actually seeing all these crazy things about Amane that she's never known before. He has all these magazines laid all over the floor. He has a pile of dirty laundry in one area and a pile of clean laundry in another area. Nothing's even folded neatly. She looks in the fridge to see if she could cook up some soup for him, but he doesn't even have the basic ingredients to cook anything. So she ends up cooking something from her room, bringing it over, and Amane's kind of shocked as to why she's even doing this in the first place. And she feels like she's just owes him a debt of gratitude for giving him the umbrella so that she wouldn't be sick, and she doesn't want him to think anything more of it. So he's like, okay, fine, because as he's smelling this food, he hasn't had a home-cooked meal in a while, because remember, this guy doesn't know how to cook. His diet is just going to the convenience store and grabbing some snacks and getting some vitamins, and that's it. So then he starts eating this beautifully prepared meal by the angel herself. He can't believe that he's eating such a nice, good home-cooked meal. And she goes back on her way, letting him do his own thing, and nothing more will come of that. So you think. Because the next part is where things get really interesting. So Mane, he doesn't want to come off as a complete loser out of this whole situation. So the next day, he cleans up the container. He wants to bring it back to her. She accepts the container, whatever. Later that evening, he forgot to go to the convenience store and get his daily dinner. His daily dinner was probably going to be some TV dinner or some snack or something. And so he has two choices to eat tonight. He either has to eat cup ramen or a cup of jello. And he already ate cup ramen yesterday, so that means we're eating jello tonight. And so he's standing out in the balcony just admiring the view with eating his jello. And Mahiru comes out there. And Mahiru stares at him and he's like, are you serious, dude? And he's like, what? He's like, that's all you're eating for dinner? And he's like, yeah, what's wrong with this? I have this jello. It's going to keep me nice and full. I got some supplement vitamins to keep me healthy. And she's like, that's not how it works, dude. We're high school kids. We need to eat real food. So Mahiru, she's going on this huge tirade. She's scolding him one after another. He's talking about he gets his nutrition from these vitamins. And she's like, no, it's in the name supplement vitamin. It's not substitute. It supplements your current diet. And your current diet is shit because all you're doing is eating sugar right now. And so she's like, hold on a second. You wait right there. She goes back to her room. He's getting kind of anxious as to what she's going to do. So when Mahiru comes back, she has a whole new container of food. And she's not trying to look too nice in front of him. She tries to make up some excuse like, oh, I just cook a lot of big batches and I'm not really a fan of my leftovers anyway. It's just going to go to waste. why don't I just give you my leftovers and we'll call it a day. And so Amane, he's just kind of looking like a lost little puppy right now, where he doesn't really want to take this greed, but at the same time, he's salivating at this food that she's bringing him. So eventually he just caves in, grabs it, and he goes back to his place and he starts chowing down on it. And that, my friends, is just the beginning of this story. This is the building blocks and the foundations of this relationship. Now, this story is told through Amane's perspective. And I love the way that this book is written, because each little chapter is its own unique interaction between Amane and Mahiru. And we get to see Amane's perspective and his thought process behind each little interaction. We don't get to see what Mahiru is thinking, but that's the half of the fun of it. Because Amane is doing all these little things and he's not sure how she's gonna take it. And he might be embarrassed in some situations, and she might be cold, but secretly she's probably a little bit embarrassed too with the way he sees her. So it's fun to sort of see how this relationship develops. And we do get that nice slow build-up with each chapter, but I'm not going to spoil where this relationship ends off in the book. You just have to remember that this is a light novel series, not just one book. We're not just going to get a whole romantic scene where they live happily ever after in the end. This is going to be a very slow build-up, and we're going to keep seeing this build-up happen throughout the different volumes. Now, Amane and Mahiru are the stars of this show, but we can't forget about the side characters. And the side characters play a huge, crucial part in this story, because you have to remember, these kids are in high school, and so they're going to have friends who they interact with every day, along with seeing each other possibly every day as well. And so these friends, they don't necessarily see this relationship, but they see how Amane is behaving, and they see that he's sort of doing things differently, and he's asking for certain advice on certain things. And so then they start questioning him, like, hey, what's going on? Should we sneak up on him and see what's going on? And so you get these unique adventures and interactions with all these friends that wouldn't normally happen if Amane had not met Mahiru. Now, between Amane's innocent personality and Mahiru's natural cuteness, you can't help but feel warm and fuzzy inside when you read this light novel. And that's why I personally enjoyed reading through this book and can't wait for more. It's a much different tone than what I'm reading right now, and so it's very nice and different to be able to read something so heartwarming. And that, my friends, is The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten Volume 1. Let me know what you think about this light novel down in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. And if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe. We're going to be bringing more light novel and manga content in the near future. With that being said, I will see you all next time. Bye everyone.